So I want to really build on what we talked about in the first part of the session. So I showed you three solutions. I showed you AccuRead OCR, I showed you Solution Composer, I showed you Forms Card. So as an example, those as a platform, we talked about this platform. In order to be successful, the feedback we're getting, it needs to be flexible, easy to implement. We need to package it up so that the sales reps can understand the sales story, the entry points, and so forth. So an example of how that has come together, or how we're helping to bring that together, is with the embedded logistics solution. Building this out, this solution takes Solution Composer, which controls the interface at the device, so it controls the user experience. It guides the process, it does the notifications, it actually executes the workflow. Forms Card, Forms Composer handles the output. It also handles some input, as you'll see in this solution as well. So we'll go through that. And then OCR, this is an optional component because it's not always appropriate to do a full text search. Sometimes you only want specific searchable elements to index it on specific fields, but to the extent that there is a need to full text search it, you've got OCR capability that would come together in this solution as well. And then as a platform, you've got the Smart MFP that's able to execute all of this as an embedded solution. So this complete user solution can come together without the need for a server. It interacts with the customer's environment, so it's easier from an implementation perspective. You don't have to stand up server licenses, etc. It's built into the device. You can strategically place the Lexmark Smart MFP footprints where you need them. I can tell you from an enterprise perspective, this particular solution, we have placed devices right at the dock door of many warehouses. It's built actually in the hardware, and again, we can come back and talk to that, but there's actually some ruggedness built into the hardware in terms of how it breathes, how it circulates air, and so forth to handle those types of environments. So all of it comes together, that the hardware in that instance is part of the solution. And again, you've heard the hardware story. I just will regress just a little bit. You've heard our hardware sales pitch for many years. We have built that solution capability into the hardware. You guys have heard that pitch before, right? How through, whether it's label printing, whether it's where we place those devices or need to place them, like the example I just gave, we have built those capabilities and enhanced them in the design of the hardware itself. So it literally is an integrated part of this solution. So it comes together in terms of a solution that can address the pick, pack, ship operations within these small, medium type of warehouse operations. Okay? So what does that look like? Well, let's talk about the need today. And this is just a quick little attention. It's pretty awesome right here. Quick little attention getter that is in the end user presentation for this solution that we provide to our dealers. But to talk to what happens within an environment today, you produce a shipping label, you produce a packing list. Generally that's 2 different devices, potentially 3 if you include a pick label, if you know anything about this type of operation. These are generally unmanaged devices that are almost throwaway. They're hanging off a serial cable, or they're hanging off, maybe they're networked, but it's definitely unmanaged is what we've seen on average today. It is a user interaction to go through and collect the form from each of those devices, match those up, carry that to the warehouse office where a bill of lading might be printed, rip, tear, because those are generally multi-part forms. There's a reason for that. So they would have to properly sort all of those documents together for the right shipment. Right? Sometimes there's errors in that process, you might imagine. And then they walk it to the dock door to release the shipment. They've got that dot matrix form, and the reason it's a multi-part form is twofold. At its core, they want one signature from the driver across multiple parts. They've got a part that goes to their finance group, they've got a part that goes to warehouse management, and then at least 2, if not 3 parts go to the driver of the truck. Typically what I see, especially in control areas, where they're shipping, let's say, bottles that are used in producing some beverage, right? Those have lot numbers. So they would hand write the lot number from the shipment on that form so that they collect that on the shipment. Now, why do they need to collect that? Because of recalls. You may have to go back and understand what truck that particular lot went out on. Well, now you've got a handwritten piece of information on a piece of paper. Where does that exist? Where that paper's at? That ends up getting stacked on some warehouse manager's desk until the end of the week when it's a big enough stack that they can hand it off to somebody to key all that data in SAP or whatever their system is. So what this solution does is address the data entry issues, the validation issues, the exception handling, and that storage piece that I just talked about. With a solution that pushes the intelligence out to the beginning of the process. Right? As much as possible, we want to build that intelligence into the original piece of paper, and we want to reduce the amount of paper that's being used in this process so that you eliminate the manual validation. One piece of paper ends up being the carrier throughout that process, and you only produce the final bill of lading when you're ready to ship on demand. And you produce one completed form where all of the data is referenceable. Right? So that's what this gets to. What I want to show you is what it actually looks like. So if you want to come back to this corner, when we're talking about label printing, we're talking about taking a packing list, right, that would typically be produced on a separate document, separate printer, separate device, and merging that with a shipping label where it's appropriate. That would have been a separate piece of material. Now, in pick-pack operations, again, if you guys are familiar with that, you've received shipments that have got your packing list folded 16 times, stuffed in a piece of plastic sleeve on the edge of the box. That is time-consuming. That takes several minutes or several seconds to be able to fold that up and stuff that. There's cost in the plastic envelope, in the forms. There's opportunity cost, if you will, in terms of all of those devices not being managed. So using a form like this, not applicable in every case, but it's part of this solution. We've pre-designed a set of forms and a packing list. Should a company choose to use it, so that the partner has this pre-designed form that they can then use to implement or at least display the concept to their customer. And this is a label that we've worked with a company called Pinpoint to produce. But this eliminates that extra step. You peel it, you stick it on the box, and then when the customer gets it, they simply unzip it and peel back the packing list. It accomplishes everything you need. But if you print this first, you follow this packing list through the process because that gets you to the end state. Now, I mentioned the warehouse office and a bill of lading. What we've got today is a solution that intercepts that dot matrix data stream and replaces the dot matrix with one of our devices that would have the embedded forms card. Rather than producing a bill of lading, we go ahead and create everything in a barcode with a human readable element so that they can match that up. Easier to sort through, easier to find, easier to carry. When they're ready to release that shipment, they simply take this, they walk it to the device. Then on the device, you see we've got some pretty scientific terminology. Print bill of lading, right? So I'm going to hit print bill of lading. At this point, Solution Composer is kicking in, and it's prompting me through this process. It's telling me, I need your sheet, hit next, I'm going to scan it. Solution Composer is going to read that barcode. It'll suck that in, it's going to take that barcode, you're going to see it do a little bit of processing, it's analyzing that barcode, then it's going to come back on the screen, and it's going to tell me the contents of that barcode as an extra validation step, just to make sure that I'm about to release the correct shipment. So I can validate all aspects of that just to make sure it's where I want it to go, and then I hit next. So once I've confirmed that is the correct shipment, now there's a number of items that would have been check marked by hand on a bill of lading form. I'm going to prompt you for all of that information. So, is the truck ready? What's the truck number? What's the seal number in the case of something having to be sealed in the back of the truck for those controlled type shipments? Who's the loader? you need to know all of this if you go to perform a recall, just for expediency. And then who validated the shipment? Now, there could be more that they would need to complete on that. It's just a matter of prompts that are very easily built out in Solution Composer. So once we've completed that, we've captured all of the data that I've just given it. We're now merging that with the form inside a forms card that, along with the data that we grabbed from the barcode, to produce a completed uniform bill of lading. Now all I have to do is have my driver sign this one time. Now, what have I left out? I told you something very important about why this is multi-part. You've got to have multiple copies. You've got to have some internally, you've got to give it to your driver. So once I've signed this, I'm going to lay it back on here one more time, and I'm going to process my signed bill of lading. At that point, I'm going to scan that again using Solution Composer. I'm going to grab the data from the barcode, which is all the reference index data that we've defined from all the electronic data that we've put into that form. So I'm capturing everything in one step without having to drive prompts that's important for referencing that document. I'm then routing all of that content along with the image of the scanned document internally to every resource that needs it with the proper notification for that particular resource. I'm providing the CSV or XML or whatever content is needed for my back-end system, be it SAP, be it ERP, whatever, so that it can be imported into that system very easily. And then as the final part of the process, I'm printing the additional copies for that driver, and I hand them all of my paper. I don't keep anything because it's all electronic. So as far as cleaning up and automating that process, that is a completely embedded. That's what we mean by serverless and adding power to the solution. That's what we mean when I'm talking about a platform and how it comes together. That's how we're packaging this together to go after a specific industry segment. I can tell you as an industry consultant, I was selling this at some of the largest distribution houses. But having the ability to leverage these tools, which we haven't had all that capability until fairly recently, barcoding and some of the advanced features, but we now have the ability to pull all of that together in an SMB flavor package that allows our partners to go, again, easily implement, target, and make a profit on selling this type of solution. And these are the doors, as I mentioned earlier. They don't necessarily leave the carpet and go to those concrete parts of the business. So this is an avenue to allow them to grow those opportunities, to grow those businesses, and to get into companies even though their competitors may have a contract locked up on the copiers. So that's part of the idea. Any questions?
Can this work in a multi-machine environment where the downside of embedded is sometimes you're not, able to exchange information as well?
So it can work in a multi-machine environment. So the script is fairly standardized and easy to push out.
But like, would it know on this machine that you had already printed the bill of lading on this machine, so you can't duplicate it?
Okay, good question.
Like
so in that scenario, no, it wouldn't. So this is designed for the SMB type market. We've got the server-based component for a little larger customer or a little more integrated environment where you want that extra validation. So we can upsell, if you will, for lack of a better term, to a more server, more integrated type solution.
Most of these embedded are designed one-to-one for one machine.
That's right. It would be a limited number of machines per location, that type of thing.
The content of that manifest, is that stored at the local device?
Well, the content of this is sent to whatever network repository, email, wherever you wanted it to go.
Nothing's left on the drive?
No.
Esoteric, your form card is a card?
Yes.
Okay, it's the old form storage.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's got the merge intelligence in it, as well as all the barcode fonts and all of that, so that it can easily do that on the fly. So again, concept of how we're bringing these platform tools together to create what is now a solution for a given customer set. So let me take you back to this screen.
This goes back, I'm just thinking in my head about this whole discussion we've had about solutions composer versus, a logistics solution, right? So how do you brand that so that you get the most play, the most bang for the buck to replicate that as quickly as possible?
So what we've got for that logistics solution, we actually have a complete sales package supported. So we have what we call a logistics accelerator pack that provides the professional services, the implementation teams, with pre-scripted Solution Composer scripts, with pre-built forms. So what they would have to do is kind of the final mile, if you will, in terms of integration. They've got to map the data stream. They've got to customize the script. But it's pre-built, trying to give them a leg up and simplify the implementation. We also have the sales packaging. We've got a battle card that takes them through the questions to ask, who they need to be talking to. Mike talked about engaging line of business versus the traditional purchasing type folks. That's who we're going to point them to. We're going to give them the conversation. We're going to tell them, here's what we would expect you to see in that environment. So we spell out what that looks like, and here's what your future state should look like or could look like. So they can have those conversations. We also have an internally focused training video that the sales rep can watch before they go engage the customer, and an even shorter customer-facing video that introduces that talk track, introduces the concept, so they can pull it up into Go, that we'll talk about a little later, on their iPad, demonstrate that video to the customer, get the conversation started. They've got the battle card to continue it, and then they can pull in a professional resource or professional services resource or us to help them continue that conversation. So from a sales standpoint, that's how we're trying to bring it together and help bridge that gap that exists today.
When did that become available? Or
The
when-
logistics solution,
Yeah, or will it, or did it?
it was announced about mid-year. So now let me shift gears a little bit and demonstrate another packaged solution that's targeting a specific SMB industry, and this is more mid-market, mid-sized type retailers. Now, this is where Mike gets excited, because my sign shop represents the first in a series of announcements that are leveraging perceptive technologies that have been acquired in a package that is specifically targeting SMB customers. I'm going to talk about 3. My sign shop was introduced about mid-year. We're going to talk about AccuRead Automate that introduces next week. And then we're going to talk about, Mike already mentioned, Cloud Share that introduces next year, next first quarter. So first thing, my sign shop. Look, let me just kind of let you know how we package this before I get into some of this customer-facing type statistics and sales story. I'm kind of light on it, but I just wanted to give you a flavor. But we're packaging this from a sales perspective very similarly to what I described from for the embedded logistics solution. We have battle cards. The battle card for this one follows the power messaging format. So is, does, means, the power wedge, all of that is spelled out for the sales rep. It actually goes as far as to train them through how to whiteboard it on a napkin should they have that opportunity. So we're trying to give them those communication tools to get this conversation started. The other thing that we have for this, because retail is not historically a big targeted industry for our dealers, we've got a series of retail overviews. Just education on the retail market so that they understand, they can go through, the sales reps go through it, anybody at the dealership can go through it to gain an overall understanding. This is kind of what Ron was talking about, in packaging up and making that intelligence that we've gathered available to our partners to enhance the business that they're doing. So you'll see more and more of that education, if you will, that learn set made available to our partners. So the challenge that my sign shop solves is one that Access Via, you're familiar with that as one of our acquisitions. Access Via is a leader in the industry, in the retail industry in terms of signage. Not only print signage, but print and digital signage. So my sign shop is a derivative of what they've been doing, a cloud-based solution focused on print signage. Because when you look at the franchise type business, those 6 to 15, 20 store location type stores, what do you see in terms of signage? You guys have been through them. I spared you some of the embarrassing signs that we've run across, but you'll see misspellings, you'll see Sharpie-based signs, you'll see all of that. Well, retailers understand what an impact that is. But the truth of the matter is, the impact is that just over 3/4 of customers that come into that store, they are susceptible to the marketing that they're presented with in that store location. I think it's 76% without turning around and looking at the chart. Of every person, and think about yourself, think about impulse purchases that you might make. You walk in, you're going to pick up whatever, this little item. But you see something that's presented in such a way that you just think, you know what? I think I need that. Boom.
Doug,
That's-
are you referring to your shoes again?
If they would do that for shoes, then I would be in much better shape. So, but how it's presented has incredible importance to a retailer. And if you go in and you see a sign that says, and I've got this on my iPad right now, boneless bananas. I've got another example of a sign that's,
Yeah, try that.
got another example of a sign. It talks about a special on coconuts, and it's setting over a basket of kiwis. Like those are some micro coconuts. But you see all kinds of that kind of stuff. And it impacts, are you going to be as enticed to buy that product? No. So what my sign shop does, or actually let me not get to my sign shop. Let's talk about how retailers are solving that today.